Hello and welcome to the sixth podcast episode in this series titled Forest Beyond the Tracks. I'm Darren, I'm your host. Today we're going to be talking about our third and last recorded EP, Pangs.
We'll get lost in the forest beyond the trees.
How is everyone? How are we doing?
Very well.
Right.
Brand.
Busy.
Good. So obviously the EP is titled Pangs, which I think is another word for pain, is that right?
Or just
Short
general
stab at
emotion,
pain.
isn't it? Short stab of emotion.
Yeah, you can like say, pangs of romance or like pangs of jealousy. I mean, you can even
Okay.
describe it if you're hungry, pangs of hunger. But obviously, we don't want people to be getting hungry when we're listening to this EP. We want them to be feeling something.
Now, I know we're going to go into these and sort of dissect them individually, but just sort of the overall theme of Pangs, what was the kind of the inspiration behind it?
Well, I think this is like sort of 2013 was a bit of a tough year for everyone in the band, like musically and also kind of behind the scenes as well. Like musically, it wasn't really happening to a level we were kind of hoping it would. Like things didn't really take off to a certain level we were aiming for, and behind the scenes, we had some of us had some tough relationship breakdowns as well, sort of late 2012, 2013. So it was a bit of uncertainty where the band was going.
Or whether it was going anywhere at all.
Yeah. So it was getting tough. Like some of the rehearsal sessions, I remember quite tense. And the new music wasn't very forthcoming, like as it had been previously.
I remember we spoke in either last week's podcast or the week before about one of the philosophies that we've always worked to when we've been writing and making music, and Tom said it, that the concept was just feel it and follow that feeling. And I think that feeling and that kind of passion and that drive had really kind of was being put to the test and hit a brick wall. And so the music wasn't flowing like it had been for us over the previous 3 or 4 years. And it was noticeable. And obviously we came to a bit of a crossroads about whether we were going to carry on and what we were going to do if we did carry on, which was kind of the basis of where this record started.
Although we had hit those tough times in rehearsals and it was starting to get a little bit dry and a bit tense, when we decided that we're going to record the EP, and we gave ourselves something to work towards, it started flowing quite nicely because we realised that actually we all kind of wanted the same thing really underneath. It was just to make music and to enjoy it as much as possible. So when we set the target of, right, we're going to record 4 or 5 songs, another EP, we suddenly that put the grease in the cogs, if you like, and got the ball in motion.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. I think giving ourselves a target and a goal to work towards refocused us all. And I remember that we said that all of these tracks on this new record were going to be completely new songs, and we were going to set ourselves a deadline, and we were going to write as many songs as possible and then choose what ones we were going to record, which was completely different to the way that we'd worked in the past, because previously we had a handful of songs, and of those handful, arguably 4 or 5 or possibly 6 were undoubtedly the strongest ones and the ones that we had to record. And so there wasn't that same kind of deliberation. So yeah, giving ourselves that challenge and that focus probably saved us from kind of petering out and got us working towards, on my opinion, what is our best record.
Yeah, and we sort of had a B list of songs which could have made the EP and could have been an EP by itself and would have still been quite a strong recording, I think.
At one point, I think we had voted in that Causing Trouble was going to make the track list, and then I think we all sort of went away and went, really? I can't remember which one didn't make it at the end, which we swapped it over with.
I remember, but I think we can definitely talk about how that process went about, because we spent what was that pub called up in the Triangle in Bournemouth where we all sat?
Goat and Tricycle.
The Goat and Tricycle, yeah. And we've always had a voting system within the band to make decisions on things that are tricky. So and deciding which tracks would go on the EP was no different. And it got really complex, didn't it? It was like anonymous voting, writing little slips of paper, putting them into a hat, pulling them all out and tallying them all up. It was really complex.
Yeah, I think we didn't want anybody to sway anybody else's decision. you know.
Yeah.
If 4 people have said this song, when it comes to the 5th one, they're able to go, oh, no, I think something else is completely different. But
Yeah, I think we wanted it to be everyone's record. We wanted it to be as much feel everyone was involved, had their say, and we still do. I think we're quite a democratic band. It's not really too rock and roll sometimes, but I think that's the best way to be, because then we all get a say. We all get to put our 2 cents in and make it our own.
These songs that we chose in that vote weren't actually the 5 songs that ended up on the EP. I think it changed again after that, if I remember rightly.
Does the voting work? I mean, it's controversial. We just change our minds anyway.
Best part about that, though, the best part about that vote is one of the songs that we voted for to go on the EP that I think it either had the most or the second most votes from all of us. We hadn't even finished it. Like, we'd only written like a verse and like a hook to it, and that was, I can say it now, can't I? That was Forest Beyond the Trees.
Yeah.
Like, we'd finished, we'd given ourselves a deadline. We'd crossed the deadline for the songs that we were going to write for the EP, but then that we just stumbled across kind of making that, and we've loved it so much, and we have so much kind of excitement for it that it made it on. And now that is, I saw it the other day, that's our most played song on Spotify, and it nearly never was.
I mean, it's literally that last week, I think, of this deadline, like Jack came up with it. I was a bit anti of it because it came in so late. I thought, this is just going to kind of be, it's too late in the game. We can't put this, we can't consider this. This is too much.
Got to play by the rules.
Yeah. But then, I was, proven wrong, and it was, obviously gone on to be such a smash.
And there's also the theme tune to this little podcast.
Yeah, there was one thing that we also forgot to mention, was the fact that we bought ourselves a new toy at the start of 2014, which was this synth keyboard, which we were hoping was going to expand our sound and make the music more exciting again, because obviously it became a bit samey, and this was going to be our golden goose a little bit. It was going to be our new thing to play with and experiment with and try new sounds and expand our sound. And I remember it made me really excited, because it was something I love in music anyway. But I thought for us it was a real cool thing to bring to our table.
Right, so obviously we're on with the songs that we're going to record then. We got this golden goose, so to speak, so Matt's now playing this synth. We hit the studio, I believe. I think it was late April. That was it Gillingham, if I'm saying that right? In New Forest?
Yep. North Dorset.
North Dorset.
Got to get that bit in there.
And it's actually about 5-minute drive away from where I live now.
That was a cool studio, though, and obviously it was quite expensive for us to be there. So we had to raise a lot of money beforehand.
Yeah, and I think it's quite early when we went in the studio. As I mentioned earlier, so we released this EP 5th of September, and we started recording again late April. So 5 months prior? Quite a long time for us to wait for us to release something. I think that just shows sort of our maturity come along as a band. If you compare it to Red Light, how we sort of recorded, we kind of just got it printed and rushed it out. But this one, we obviously took our time. We were a bit more experienced. We kind of knew what we wanted. I just want to how did you guys find the experience if you were comparing it to the first time we recorded with Red Light?
Yeah, I think we were also had 3 more years of experience under our belt when we went to Conversion Studios to do this thing, and we'd been to London, we'd been to a good studio, so we were a bit more picky in a good way to try to get a place which we know would deliver a good quality level for the music we wanted to produce and the music we wanted to make. So it seemed to fit our needs really well. But yeah, for me, it just we had to maintain that quality level from being in the premises 2 years prior for this. It ticked all the boxes.
Yeah, I think what helped as well is we could stay on site as well. There was a little cottage on the side where we could there was a kitchen area, there's a bathroom and bedrooms, so we were able to sort of work really late until the morning, like after a few beers. You know, we'd be up until 2-3 o'clock at night, like working on drum beats and stuff, and then we could all individually go to bed as and when we wanted to, and then we could all wake up together, and it felt very communal.
Brush our teeth together.
Yeah.
Brush our teeth, share the same towels, you know, all that sort of jazz. And it just felt like we were a bit more together and in it together.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think Matt even he slept in the music room with all the grand piano and stuff one night, and like the drums and stuff, because there was basically no, I'm not sure it was extra beds or what, or he might have just chosen to do that. That's how much he loved the music. He was just sleeping.
Just feeling it.
He was feeling it.
Did you sleep in the main room, Matt?
Yeah. I slept sort of, like I say, just behind drum kit. I believe there was a pool table there, which we didn't use, surprisingly.
Was that really?
But yeah, literally just on the floor behind drum kit. It was nice.
Why did you stay there?
Because we ran out of beds.
Had we?
Yeah, there was a couple of beds, and then there was like a sofa bed, and then like a bed as well. So yeah, I think it was because two of us, might have been me and Darren, slept in like the living room area, and those were just like two pull-out beds. So they really had to like cram us all in to accommodate us all. So yeah,
it was kind of like a mini holiday in a way. Like, remember we we do like a big food shop? We had like our own fridge, like our own sort of like cooking facilities. We did like a big food shop.
the barbecues.
Barbecues. Obviously, like Jack mentioned, a lot of beers. So even though we're there for recording, also it was a really good sort of social, and it was good to sort of spend that amount of time together, knowing we're going to be doing something productive and creating this great record.
If you remember back to the Sparks and Dark episode, I had a fun story about my contact lenses, and it's time for another contact lens story.
Gather round, everyone. Gather round.
Yeah. So obviously we were staying at the studios, and we had bootload of equipment and bootload of food and drink and all our overnight bags. But unfortunately, I forgot to pack my contact lens fluid, and I didn't realise until the end of the first night at the studio. So it was getting quite late after a whole day of recording and just getting settled to ready to go down to bed, and didn't have my contact lens fluid, so I had to drive all the way back home, and actually ended up staying at home rather than coming back again.
Oh.
Yeah. So
where was you living at this point?
I was living right next to Boscombe Pier, actually.
Oh, so it's quite a drive home then.
Yeah. Well, that time of night, not so bad. Obviously, I won't say how long it took me, but
should you have been driving?
Probably not.
His contacts, you can say, and he's got over 20 minutes.
Yeah, he's going the other way, reversing.
I got a load of deer's blood on the bonnet. I don't know where that came from.
I'll tell you, that's one of my favourite things about doing this podcast, is like how many old videos and old photos we're like digging up, and obviously we're trying to share them on social media. So if you want to see half the things we're talking about, we're trying to share them as much as possible each week. So do check them out. But yeah, it's so funny to kind of relive not only the memories that I remember, but then when you guys talk about other stories that I've kind of half forgotten and they come flooding back, it's quite a lot of fun.
If you are listening on the Spotify version, go and check out the YouTube version as well, because like Neil said, there are photos and possibly extra video bits that you just don't get on Spotify. Extra bonus content.
Righty guys, so we're in the recording studio. We've got the fridge full. We've got our instruments set up. We're ready to record, basically. Now, if we just go into the first song then that we recorded, that came out, which was Press Reset. So whose idea was that?
What I remember it was I had a really slow day at work. The melody just popped into my head, like the press reset bit and like part of the music, and I just had to record it on my phone then and there, like at work, just before I forgot it. And then I think that same day we were going to had a rehearsal booked, so I could bring it straight to everyone like straight away, and we could work on it like the same day. And it, from what I remember, I was quite like certain of how it should go and how it should sound, and it came together pretty quickly. It was quite clear to me, and it just sort of wrote itself to a certain degree. So
like in your head, like the song was already written, you just want to obviously get us to put our bits in.
Well, yeah, obviously, you know, it's only in my head, it's just an idea. But when everyone comes on board, then we can start working on it. We can add, you know, some cool drum bits, or try to show them different with the guitars or the arrangement of the instruments. And then again, we tried this like this sort of call and response. The backing vocal goes, you know, the press reset bit. We're all doing it at the same time. Was kind of continued that from what we had done previously, but it felt different for this song.
I remember hearing the synth on that track, and that being sort of specifically that rehearsal being the first time that I think I like got it, that I got what we could potentially do with the synth. Because prior to that, like, we talked about the idea of incorporating it and kind of giving us a different kind of dynamic to our music, and I thought that sounded cool on paper, but I didn't really have any kind of context for it. But I remember that rehearsal and you kind of talking us through that and playing the chords on the synth and thinking, oh yeah, this is completely different to anything that we've done before, and this could be a really cool place for us to work from.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but certainly from my point of view, doing the synth, there's not a lot going on musically to the song, like if you break it down into its individual parts, but it's one of those songs where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, I think like you said, the keyboard part doesn't change. Like my guitar lead part melody doesn't change. I'm only playing 3 notes throughout the whole song, but what I think is really clever that we've done is when the second half of the song, when Darren comes in with the full continuous drum beat, and he does that sort of like it sort of sounds like an 80s sort of machine techno sort of like a drum patch you'd find on a old keyboard, you know,
808 or something. Darren, we've got a key word from your other part to do with your drummings. You remember this? Skittles.
Sour Skittles.
Bag off.
/ very crude shaker. Let's say.
Let me just paint the picture. So Darren's recording the drums, and I've gone for, obviously, like I said before, we're staying on site, so I've gone into the kitchen and got myself a cup of tea. And as I've walked past the live room, Darren stood round the drum kit, surrounded by microphones, and he's got a bag of Skittles in his hand, and he's shaking it from left to right over these 2 microphones. He just has a deadpan, no expression, and you can tell he's super like concentrated, trying to keep in time. And I wander in there with the camera on just to try and put him off, and he's just like, not now.
You know what? That was quite difficult. I never thought just shaking a bag of Skittles left to right could be so challenging, especially when you've got that pressure of a metronome. You can't go out of time, and yeah, like I had to do 60 notes, which is like, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's fast. I don't think I've ever shaken anything that much so rigorous in my life. So to try like record these Skittles and go like,
I bet you have.
It was. Well, I bet those things are best left off. You know, the podcast.
Pile of ketchup.
Yeah.
Do you think do you think that sound of the Skittles comes across in the final recording, Darren, or do you think it was just a really elaborate practical joke?
You know what? I reckon if you did a side-by-side comparison, if you did it Skittles on and then Skittles off or muted, yeah, I'm sure you could tell the difference. But
it's like some weird kind of Mr. Miyagi thing.
Do you reckon you could tell?
Skittles on, Skittles off.
Do you reckon you could tell what type of Skittles they were, whether they were sour or just the normal ones?
They were sour. Do you know what? I've still got the original packet somewhere deep in the archives. Yeah, I've got the packet in my bedroom, and I just kept it because to everyone else, it's just an empty bag of Skittles, rubbish, litter. To me, it's a lot of memories. I look at it and I get all these visions. So yeah, I think that's the reason why I kept it, because I'm not sure if many bands have recorded Skittles on their tracks. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, but we could be sitting on a world's first right here.
I know Ringo Starr taped a packet of cigarettes to his bass drum in some of the early recordings, and somebody kept the old packet of cigarettes as well. So Ringo Starr, Darren Shepherd.
Pretty similar, really.
Yeah. I do think, though, Press Reset is probably our most original song. It is unlike anything else that we've got. There's not many lyrics in there, is there?
No, and that was done on purpose. It was supposed to be a bit more like this. The songwriting's different on this record. It was a bit more metaphor, things that were alluded to. So it was a case of the listener would try and figure it out, and piece together what's sort of happening in, if it was like a story or a visual story. So I wanted to keep it quite ambiguous, but all the words rhyme, I think, which helps as well.
Songwriting 101.
Yeah, just make sure everything rhymes. That's the golden rule.
How to record an EP: bag of skills, make sure the song lyrics rhyme. Done, in the bag.
I think it's a good opener for the EP as well, because the first sound you hear on the EP is the synth, and this was like the new sound, the new era. So it seems fitting that would be the first sound, and it sounds like an introduction to something, like an introduction to something bigger, like the EP or the new time we're having together. So I think it fit. That was a good choice for number one on the record.
It became like our opening song for our live set for months and months.
Until Can You Feel It, really, wasn't it? So for a long time, it was our opener. It deserves a place at the beginning of something rather than kind of in the middle. And it's very much the starting of a journey.
I think it's a great opening track.
And it was bold. I mean, obviously, we talked in the Sparks of the Dark episode where we were doing Can't Get Through as our opening track, and Jason, the sound engineer, at that time said, "Cool, you're brave starting with that." And I think it was brave to start with this again, because this was completely different to anything that we'd ever done, anything that people that were fans of ours or knew our music would have expected from us. You'd like to think, obviously, we're excited for what we were going to release, and the first thing they heard was something completely different. I thought it was a pretty gutsy step for us to take. When I look back at it and I look at the difference between what we did with Red Light and even with Sparks in the Dark to what we did with Pangs, I see a journey, and that's something that I'm really proud of.
Yeah, it was a big step up, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it should be. I think that's what we should be doing, and we did it. Come back with something a bit unexpected, but still has similar elements to it. And I think we continued throughout the record.
Okay, so next track, which I believe is Jack's favourite, and maybe we'll come on to that another time. But this one's called "Don't Let Me Down," not to get confused with the Beatles track. Empire Affair, "Don't Let Me Down." So with this one, I believe me and Jack start with this one. So I know we said before that Press Reset kind of starts with the synth. This one sort of maybe back to our roots a little bit, where it comes straight in with drums, guitar. And then there's that little like drum fill, and then we all come in.
I remember I had that guitar part, those sort of chords in that sort of rhythm for probably about 6 months, and I kept sort of like bringing it up in practice and stuff like that. And then when we made this conscious decision to actually write, we sort of worked on it, and the sort of angle I was going for was sort of what was it, the mechanical
Super
Soaker, yeah. I was sort of going for that sort of vibe. And sometimes, like when you write a song, you either go in there with a full thing and say, "Look, can you play this? I want it to sound like this." But I brought that guitar part, trying to go for that sort of Kings of Leon sound, and then it becomes something else, which wasn't necessarily a bad thing, but it was just what I envisioned the rest of the music to sound like with my guitar part. I just quickly fell out of love with my own guitar part, because I think Matt's got some real interesting lead, like, because Matt played leads on this song, and he's got some real interesting lead parts. And I sort of I keep the rhythm going throughout the song along with Darren. I find it quite uninspiring because I'm not really doing much, but you take one for the team, and everybody loves it. But if we never played it again, I wouldn't lose any sleep. But that said, you know, when I do every now and again, and it comes up on my playlist when I shuffle the songs, I do think the production's pretty good on it, especially like the choruses, and I prefer listening to it than I do playing. I think we'll just say.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to it, isn't it? There's a lot of layers of vocals, especially at the end. When my lead guitar part comes in, it's also got the synth part in underneath as well, playing exactly the same thing. And yeah, there's lots of layers which just added up to make this really big, full-on sound, which I think was probably down to Josh, the guy that recorded it. He was quite open to that, to pushing us to add more layers and make this really thick, lush sound to it. So we have him to thank for that.
I think it's two completely different songs. Like live, it's very angry and ferocious and mean, and I think the recording sounds very sort of polished and, like you say, big and grand.
I agree. I really like this song. I love playing it live. It was always, these were 1 and 2, obviously on the EP, and quite often were songs 1 and 2 of our live set as well.
I just want to say this. There's a really nice lyric in this. I don't know where I got the idea from, but "Avalanche of tenderness is one of my favourite lines in any one of our songs. Just a nice phrase.
Where did it come from?
I can't remember. I wish I could. I think it was reference to anything, but I just like it.
It's funny you say that, actually, because there's the breakdown of this song has probably got my favourite line one of my favourite lines from our songs, which is, we didn't know the rules of the game, but we kept playing it again and again and again.
Was it the last chorus? There's 3 different, Neil, you're doing 3 different vocal parts?
I'm actually doing...
You're doing
4. I'm actually doing 4, because I'm doing one lot of the continuous ooze, another lot of the more kind of staccato ooze, the main chorus line, and overlapping the prolonged "Don't Let Me Down" chorus line over the top of it. So it's really cool to hear it back. And that's what Matt was saying when we started talking about this track. There are so many layers in this song, like Tom's "Avalanche of Tenderness" line, where we strip everything out there, and the synth follows the delivery of the vocal at that part as well, and it goes down to Darren's kick drum as well, and it just, the layers, the kind of the building up and taking down of the layers in this song is what makes me really enjoy that song live and on the record.
Yeah, it's quite fun to play.
Yeah, I enjoy it. Yeah, I think it's such a big sound, full sound. You know, it just sounds mammoth, and it's just, you know, everyone's cooking, it feels like to me.
The whole song for me became better because of the studio time, and because Josh, the engineer that we worked with, because he basically, before we recorded it, and we were working it in rehearsals, and I can't remember if we trialed it at any live gigs or not, but the delivery of the chorus, like vocally, for me was really rushed, and at the end of it left me like with no air kind of to push out, so it kind of fell away and was quite weak. And Josh picked up on that, and he just got me to do 5 or 6 different versions, delivering it with different pauses and breaks. And so and one of those is what obviously made the record, where the repeat of the "Don't Let Me Down" became "Don't Let Me," pause, and then the longer down, and that is what it is now. And I don't even remember exactly the delivery beforehand, but it just goes to show, like, when you've got a good engineer who helps you kind of creatively and think outside the box as well, how much more you can get out of the songs.
We didn't talk much, baby. It's too late tonight to heal the heartache. You're flying me, lady.
DNA Code, which I personally think is probably the main track on this EP, purely just because of just how big it sounds, and you got that sort of suspense synth, and then we come in with the drums, and then it's all just going off.
I wrote the lyrics to this, and I'm pretty sure, I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but I'm pretty sure I came up with at least the chorus music anyway. But to me, DNA Code is because a lot of these songs on the record are also about relationships breaking down. It's about the hurt after a relationship. It's about starting again after a relationship, going south. And this is a song about, it's like the Hollywood ending version of the relationship. So it's sort of like the fact the DNA Code comes in because it's supposed to be two lovers are so close that their DNA code is pretty much the same. So, and their partner's love will always be within them, and their affection towards them, even though they know it's not going to, this romance is doomed, effectively. That's what the song is kind of saying. But it's doing it in a way where it's referencing like a lot of film, like TV stuff, and just trying to make it like a bit like a road movie, like lovers on the run, outlaws doing it one last time, going before they drive off a cliff, if you will, like Thelma and Louise or whatever, just that heightened emotion that you get at the end of a film where it's the stakes as high as they can get, and then played across a 4-minute indie synth pop song. That was what we're going for, like biggest sound we could generate from that. And I personally think it's in my top 3 songs, maybe even higher, that we've written together. I think it is one of the best.
It really does stand out.
For me, it's probably my go-to song if someone says, what does Empire Fair sound like? And I only had time or the opportunity to play them one song. I think it's DNA Code is probably usually my go-to one, because there's a lot of ups and downs, a lot of tempo change, a lot of structure changes, and got this really nice synth sound in there, lots of guitars, lots of vocals, and there's a lot of good stuff in there which make up almost like a quintessential Empire Fair song.
I think when the song was written, or you guys come up with it, or Tom, you brought it to the group, I wasn't actually at practice, and I remember turning up the following week, and you guys were like, "Oh yeah, should we play that song that we came up with last week?" And then I was like, "Yeah, okay. What's the crack?" And you go, "Right, just play these chords and try and jump in." And yeah, I remember sort of playing it and thinking, well, this is pretty good. This is when the guys say, "Oh, we 9 times out of 10," when we all say, "Oh yeah, should we do that jam?" It sometimes gets forgotten, or it sometimes doesn't get picked up again. And then yeah, it was for the word go, it was an absolute smash.
Yeah, I think it's instant. It's got like a really cool hook with the synth line. Bass line is like different in the chorus to other songs we've done before, and just the sort of drive the song has. It has a momentum to it. It has like a forward pushing. It's just constantly going, and you can't help but get swept up in it. I think it just has this. It just sounds anthemic, like just off the bat, and the production of it is just top end.
Yeah,
for my money. It just sounds like Josh just did such a good job on getting that song, making it sound as good as or better than we could have hoped, or in my opinion, better than it could have been.
I seem to remember we were up quite late just deciding on what the sound of the synth was going to be. I think it was something like 1 o'clock in the morning, and we were just working on the sound of the actual synth, and I think we just hit the nail on the head and went, yeah, that's the one. Did a guide track, slept on it, next morning put it down, on record, and the synth on that sound amazing. I'm
not sure if it was the last part, but Neil, I remember your vocal takes on a certain part where you were trying to get this sort of gritty sound, and you kept just trying to get it. I remember this one time where you did, I was like, that's the one. I'm not sure what the lyric is, but
it's really interesting for me because my singing style is quite clean. I'm much more comfortable delivering kind of notes as kind of healthy sounding and as clean as possible. And if I kind of stray from that, my voice deteriorates so quickly and I find it quite uncomfortable and kind of painful. So when we recorded that, and I was singing it really cleanly, almost like it was like a kind of a performance that needed to be note perfect to an extent, and the feedback from Josh and from you guys as well was that, all right, it was in tune, it sounded fine, but it didn't deliver the emotion of the song and the kind of the drive that the music was bringing to it. And so you're right, so we just did take after take and then took ample breaks for me to recover, where I had to just kind of really draw out this gritty kind of coarse, rough kind of sound to my vocals, which is not something that I ever do, but it was so much fun. And like, I listen back to it now and I think, oh yeah, I did that. It's awesome. It was so fun to record.
To really see you coming outside your comfort zone was really good. I remember watching and thinking like yeah, you're good anyway. But I just thought like, wow, like he can do those sort of things. You know, obviously with the right kind of producer, it's really good to see that producer seeing our potential now and getting us out of our comfort zones.
It's an inhibitions thing as well, and like kind of when you're in the vocal booth and you've got the headphones on and it's so sensitive, you can hear the tiniest details of like your lips moving together and apart, and it's really quite kind of a self-conscious thing. And then so to be asked to then do something completely different and like kind of make your voice do something you're not used to doing, it took a while to let those kind of inhibitions go and just embrace that.
The car's still running, lovers on the run. Share a silent smile and ride into oblivion. We were partners in crime, we were Bonnie and Clyde, but we ran out of road. We were one of a kind, we were Jekyll and Hyde. Oh, you were in my DNA code, my DNA code.
So, guys, bit of a useless fact. I don't know if you know this about lyrics and DNA code, and particularly the Jekyll and Hyde thing. Robert Louis Stevenson wrote Jekyll and Hyde whilst he was in Bournemouth. Did you know that?
I do
Did
now.
not know
No, I
that,
didn't. No.
No, useless knowledge that you will never tell anyone ever again. But anyway, I thought it was quite a cool little thing to put in, to have to be included in the song anyway. Obviously, from where we're from and how, you know, what the song's about, it was kind of cool.
Was it about Frankenstein then?
No, he didn't write that, but Mary Shelley obviously does also have a connection with Bournemouth, which is crazy. If you want to go down that road, we can talk about that road.
Let's not.
Tolkien, he did a lot of writing in Bournemouth as well.
Yeah, it's weird. We
So
are
did
very-
Empire Affair.
Never heard of her.
And Tony Blackburn's from Poole. So
Didn't know that.
trump that one.
I can't.
That wins it.
Next
One
then.
Foot the Grave was filmed in Bournemouth and Boscombe.
We've gone off on a tangent, haven't we?
All right, back on track.
Mungo
So,
Jerry,
next song.
he lives in Poole.
Mungo.
His
Right, we're going back
Is that
to
his full
this. Let's
name?
go.
his real name is actually Ray Dorset.
Mungo
No, it's not.
Jerry.
And
It
he's-
is Ray Dorset.
From Dorset.
Big shout out to Ray Dorset if you're listening. Thank you. All the
And
best.
Easy Ray.
He owns a hairdresser's in Westbourne.
Oh, get me in.
Yeah, you need to get in, mate.
Darren's got some quarantine hair at the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah, so second to last song on the CP then. So all day I've been trying to think, what does that mean? Can anyone explain to me what does a forest beyond the trees mean? Because to me it means it's a never-ending forest. Am I in the right ballpark or am I way off?
I guess technically that's kind of right, but it's more of
Explain.
like it's more of a
It's a
I guess-
saying.
it's a philosophical kind of saying. So it's don't just see the trees, i.e. the first line of the trees, you see the forest, which is behind the trees or beyond the trees. So you're seeing depth, you're seeing the depth of what something's got, not just a surface level, not just a shallow kind of thing of the whatever you're describing or whatever it's about. So that was the thinking behind the track name, was to say don't be superficial, don't judge things by just how they look. There's depth, there's more things going on. The song is really about let's just say someone trying to woo their object of their affection. They're trying to get a new lover, and they're saying don't just judge me on how I look. Let's go deeper. Let's try and find something more meaning in this relationship. Let's go somewhere we haven't been before, into this forest. Basically, that was my intention when I was trying to write it. Anyway,
I really like the lyrics on that song. I really like the lyrics. It feels, because obviously a lot of the lyrics talk about it in a very literal sense. It feels very kind of childish, but in more of a kind of an innocence kind of way, and like just kind of following your emotions and just having fun and exploring something without the kind of adult overthinking or kind of contextualizing and rationalizing. So I really like singing the lyrics, and I always find them really resonate with me.
Yeah, I really like the I think it's the second verse where it talks about we'll be wild animals and wordless poetry. I think that's one of the best lines I've ever written, personally. But musically, that was the late arrival in the pack. The last card dealt, so to speak.
I remember being at practice. We were in Absolute Music, and these collection of notes that I've played are a reworked selection of notes from another song, which I'm not going to mention. And I just rearranged the notes in a different order. I just played it and sort of put that little slant on it. And I remember Darren just picking it up straight away and just drumming along with me. Then I remember like Tom everyone must have just nailed their part straight away. And everyone's just like looking at each other thinking, well, this is all right. And then we just played that opening riff over and over and over. And then like we thought, right, it's got to go somewhere. And I think we, as we say, just feel it, see what happens. And then within about an hour, we were like, had the verses and the choruses. And we worked a lot on, different parts and like the mid late. And yeah, I remember being there just thinking, this has just fell into place perfectly.
It's quite a bitty song. There's lots of different sections to it. For me, I mean, it's probably because I'm jumping between two instruments a lot on that song, but there's a lot of different parts of that song which I don't play again. Like the first part of the first verse is quite unique, and then the second part of the first verse is different to anything else, and then the second verse is very different again. And then obviously you've got that middle eight breakdown sort of bit which doesn't get repeated again. And yeah, there's lots of different sections to that song which is quite challenging for me to play actually, because it's all very, very different.
I will say that middle eight breakdown part, it took a long time to come from what I remember for the writing process. That was the trickiest part of the song, and I got a feeling we had it on loop for what seemed like weeks. We couldn't trying to crack that part.
I don't think we had anything for when we went into recording. There was no set plan,
and it's quite a long instrumental break as well. It's probably one of the longest ones we've ever written. It's probably like a quarter of the song or something. It's just the instrumentation, and I honestly think that's one of the best bits of music we've written as a band. It took a long time to get there, but it was so worth it, with that long slow build. Now at the time it was difficult because it was a bit bitty, like you said, Matt, as well, but it all came together so well as a complete song at the end of it. It just it amazed me. I was just so pleased we got, it came to turn out how it did.
Honey, let's have an adventure, just you and me. We'll get lost in the forest beyond the trees. Feel the grass between our toes, go a little bit deeper.
Disco then. So I was going to ask in regards to the song name, End of Disco. Like obviously without any context, you think what's End of Disco? So is that making reference to our second EP, Sparks in the Dark, where it was kind of like a disco theme, and again where they kind of meet in a nightclub. You've got this couple who meet in the nightclub, and obviously it tells their stories.
I wrote this one quite early on when we started working with the synth. I was trying to teach myself some basic chords. So it's just 4 chords and it all the way through, just 4 basic chords. And I wanted to try and learn these chords with an easy piano sound. There wasn't a piano sound on the synth that I had, but I found this church organ sound. So I was like, yeah, it's close enough for learning basic stuff on it. So yeah, and I taught myself these 4 basic chords on this basic sound, and I was like, I could build a song around this, and started writing the words to it. Started off with some placeholder lyrics and just built up that way. One of the things I wanted to do with the lyrics was carry on from, if you remember, there's a trilogy of songs on Sparks in the Dark where it tells a tale of this guy that goes over to Germany and falls in love with this girl, and then at the end of it they sort of have to part ways. But I wanted to carry it on and sort of say, well, now he's back at home, he misses this girl, and he wants to reconnect with her any way he can, and that's just what this song's about, is carrying on that trilogy.
Just going what you said, that End of Disco then, is it just saying like they're now split up, or they're now like, not seeing each other, and it's just the end of an era, or is it the end of their relationship?
It wasn't intentionally that way, but yeah, I can totally see how you can get to that reading of it. I don't think it was a intentional thing to make that title. I suppose it fits that End of Disco is the signaling that song is the end of that trilogy or that 4-part story.
It wasn't originally called End of Disco, was it?
Well, it followed our pattern of calling it a guy's name. It was Jeff for a while as a working title.
I felt like it had another name though. I felt like it wasn't always End of Disco.
Yeah, I thought we had a vote.
Calling Me?
For me, it was always End of Disco. So, Jack? Was
it Calling Me?
No, it was never the lyrics. It was never anything from the lyrics. It was something like Now and Then, or Then and Now, or something like that.
Yeah, I think we found a book at the recording studio somewhere, and that was the title of the book, and for some reason it got attached to that song in some capacity for a very short amount of time, or maybe even the record at one point we were perhaps considering calling it that.
I was quite excited when Matt brought like this sound, and he basically just said, yeah, here are the lyrics, and Neil added the lyrics, and I took a little bit of time to sort of come up with this guitar part to go sort of, not sort of overshadow everything, but to complement everything. And it was the first time I think I got excited by having a blank canvas to, like I say, complement what was already being played.
And again, this song is like really different to anything else we've written, and how it sounds as well, because for a couple other reasons. One being Neil's insane like falsetto vocal part, which just sounds amazing, especially at the end when you're going crazy for it, and also this like programmed sort of drum loop that was sort of done in the studio with Josh's help.
Do you know what? I didn't know how it was going to transfer from us kind of working it in rehearsal into the record, recording it, and in truth now I don't think I have ever sung it twice the same way, because through all the different verses, it like the first verses are very the You're Calling Me sections, which I guess would almost be kind of like a chorus or a kind of middle kind of part. The first ones are completely falsetto, and then from that point on they dip in between falsetto and then kind of into like middle register, and every gig I do it differently. And so when it came to I don't remember the specific kind of thoughts on the recording. I just remember the part at the end of the vocals before the instrumental where it's a lot louder and a lot more sustained. Originally, that was all for falsetto as well, and it just had no power behind it, and it just felt really kind of flat and distant. And so I remember changing from falsetto into kind of going for more of a belt on those points. But yeah, I've never sung it the same twice.
I think it was one of the guys from Rock Regeneration said, like, the ending of that song almost sounds like, because most of the song is quite quiet, and then there's this sudden explosion of noise. And someone said to me, like, that's a bit like what happens to your ears when you're coming out of a disco or coming out of a gig, like, where it's been ringing in your ears. Like, you could be in a really quiet place and suddenly there's just this loud noise. Like that change of dynamics and that loudness is a bit like that, like at the end of a disco would be.
Take my hand, I could be your man. You're calling me. You're calling me. I left myself there on the dance floor. Yeah, I left the better part of me. Smoke and mirrors, head was hazy, but it's never been so clear. You're calling me. You're calling me. I still need you to take my hand, run for our lives. I will be on that. You're calling me.
Was that the night that we got really drunk?
Possibly.
Because I remember there was one night where Josh was working on something really intricate, and I think it's those programmed drums, and we were just drinking more and more and more, and we were all just kind of being just children drinking there while he's working on that, and I think it was that programmed drum part.
Yeah, like Darren said, he had the basic rhythm, he had the basic pattern, and then he put delays on and echoes and reverb, and he just made these drums sound like they're being played in a cathedral almost. And
Yeah.
there weren't a lot for us to do, you know. It was literally like 2 o'clock in the morning or something.
Yeah, that one went really late.
And I think he turned all the lights off as well, and there was some sort of like mood lighting. And I remember
Just
it
the
being
desk.
real, all the lights off the desk and just like a lamp in the corner, and we were just like, playing silly buggers but
Right
you
on
know,
each other's arm.
right in each other's arms. Oh God, I forgot about that.
With marker pens, wasn't it?
Permanent
Yeah.
marker pens. Yeah.
For some reason, yeah. Just chin. Here's a beer. Now give me your arm to write.
We
something on
write-
there.
We wrote the
Right.
song names, didn't we, on each
Yeah.
other?
Oh,
There was a photo. Is it on Instagram of someone's forearm with DNA code written on it?
That'd be Tom's forearm.
It'd be mine, yeah.
You don't want to see what I wrote on the other one. God, that's for another podcast.
Artwork then. So on the front cover, it looks like we got it looks like a man falling from the sky and landing into the sea. Just sort of want to talk a bit of how that came about.
It's not any man. It's Matthew.
Oh, a very Matthew part. Now, just to put it out there, we didn't drop him from the sky and land him in the sea. You know, it was all done with safety in mind.
I've got some great outtakes of you doing some like running jumps or landing onto
Suplexes.
some classic wrestling moves onto some old like foam mattresses. But the artwork we had, from what I remember, I mocked up like 5 initial designs, and the one that we kind of went with was developed a little bit more, and it involved Matt falling from the sky. And I think I got Matt to take these pictures without knowing we were actually going to use it properly. So it was commitment to just see if we could pull it off. And the idea behind it was obviously, it was just trying to signify this, how you would feel after a relationship breaking down, this sensation of feeling very small, everything feels a bit overwhelming, and you're free falling, like figuratively and kind of, you know, in your emotions as well. So it was this feeling of trying to capture this feeling of falling into vastness without knowing where you're going to end up. And then that led into the colours as well, using the blues more the blue colour of Heartbreak. That was the reason behind that. And we kind of tied that into a couple of the, particularly into the Press Reset music video, where the actor in that video emerges from the sea, which could be you could read that as a continuation of the artwork, as this person is pulling themselves together after falling into the ocean and coming back to life onto the beach. So that was kind of some of the thinking behind the artwork.
Right then, so just sort of coming over to the end now then. So if we sort of quickly discuss our favourite tracks. So if I go first, without thinking about it too much, I would say To Play would be Don't Let Me Down.
Yeah, I like them all on the record, but DNA Code is my favourite. That's number one for me.
I am the same as Tom. I love DNA Code. Everything about it, the recording process, the way that it sounds, the music video, which I know we'll talk about music videos in a different podcast, but everything about that track I absolutely love.
I'm going to say Forest Beyond Trees, just because it was a challenge. It all came together very, very quickly. It had to. It's a fun song to play.
Yeah, I'd also say Forest Beyond the Trees. Like Tom said earlier, I think that breakdown, like we went in there with no sort of structure, no real plan, and we've come out with probably the best 30 seconds of music we've ever created in the last sort of 9-10 years. Do want to give a little nod to the production on End of Disco. I think it was the drums and that sound amazing.
So anyone got anything else to say before we go?
I've got another question.
Of course.
Here we go.
Here we go.
What's the current scores?
Darren won last week and Matt won the week before, so they're both tied for the lead. Right, so Pangs. It was called Pangs. There were 7 other names that were shortlisted. Can anybody remember any? You get a point for each name.
7.
I know one for sure, which was Press Reset, because we debated for hours on one evening of that recording time whether it was going to be called Pangs or Press Reset, and I was adamant that it was not going to be Press Reset because I don't like it when records are called the same as a single on them.
Press Reset is one of them, so that's 1 point for Neil.
Then and Now?
Then and Now, yeah, that's a point for Tom.
I've got a feeling we were going to self-title it, just call it Empire Affair. That's day one sort of resetting now.
That was not...
Oh, I've got one.
Been.
All right,
Go on.
let's go.
Crush.
Crush was on there.
Where did you pull that one from? Gosh.
Yes. Honestly, I don't know where that came from, but I remember it now.
No.
Anybody else going to hazard any other guesses?
Empire Affair EP3? No idea.
Yeah. No.
Something with the word summer in the title? Summer Storm or something?
No. So
Go on, Jack. Reveal all.
Reveal all. So Thomas has won this week's round with 2 correct answers. So the other names that Pangs was almost going to be called was Retreat, Control Alt Delete.
I didn't vote for that.
I don't think anybody did.
I didn't
Fatal Distraction.
Oh yes, that's such a good title. We need to use that for someone else. That's so good. It's amazing.
The best one's the last one, Dovetails.
Oh yes.
Which in my personal opinion is a bit wank, but never mind.
We argued and debated for hours into the night, one of those recording nights when we were in the studio, about what the EP should be called. And I was not backing down on Press Reset. I did not want it to be called the same as a track that was going to be on it.
Yeah, I wasn't sold on Pangs, and I still probably will never be sold. But like we said, we're in democracy. We sort of vote on these things. If I'm outvoted, then I'll shut my pie hole.
I think it's memorable. It's a memorable name. It's short and sharp, sticks in your head, and it sums up what's on the record.
Does anyone else have any memories from the time of the recording or what was going on around that time?
I remember being scared out of my wits in the middle of the night, thanks to Jack one evening when we were there.
Yeah. I remember like crawling into like 'cause you were asleep in the front room. And
Yeah, I
managed-
think I was with Neil. And we were having a chat in the dark, like after we'd been recording all day, and unbeknown to me, there was some sort of stealth ninja crawling in the darkness.
You've been in the room for ages. You'd like snuck into the room when Tom had gone out of the room, and then he'd come back in, and we were both kind of lying on our beds, like chatting. And you slowly made your way around the room, crawling, just to scare him. And you must have taken about 15 minutes.
I think it was longer. I swear it was like half an hour. And I ended up on the top of a bookcase, like on the top of a bookcase. In the middle
Completely
of
silent.
In the night, in the dark. I still can't sleep in any rooms with bookcases. I can't. If I'm in a library, no chance.
Yeah, one memory from me, not quite as creepy or weird as Jack and Tom's experience, but it was I first time I heard of a band called The Foals, and Jack, you introduced me to them by playing me a song called My Number, and that's a band I've got on to absolutely love. And yeah, that's a moment I will always remember. The first time I heard The Foals, which was sitting on the bed. Jack, you were like, oh, like I thought you were trying to tell me a certain guitar sound you wanted. And I was like, who's this? This is sick. This is amazing. And yeah, from that moment, I just fell in love with them. And yeah, got all their EPs, did have all their vinyl, seen them. But yeah, so thanks for that.
I remember when we were there, I think it was first day recording, Kasabian had just released Easy. And I remember we listened to it in the studio because Josh, the engineer, he actually knows Kasabian. He's from Leicester and he's a Leicester football fan, and he said that he was going to parties at Leicester while he was living in Leicester, and Kasabian were there, and you know, I think he's friends with the bass player, and so he was sort of like, I think he had it a day before it was released or something. Yeah, I remember we listened to Easy like in the studio, and I didn't know what to think of it straight away. I was a bit like, this is pretty out there. You know, you think Kasabian is sort of very sort of rock and roll, but this is all the digital process sounds, and grew into it over time. But I just think we remember that whilst we were there.
Do you remember how we passed the time in between doing our recording?
Everyone had their iPads and phones and playing Monopoly.
We did. We got a very competitive games of Monopoly going on between us, and people had to keep getting subbed in and out based on when they were doing recording. So you'd be on a really hot streak, and you had properties all in the right places, and then you were like, "Oh, I got to go." So I'm subbing Darren in to manage my properties for me, and that took over a lot more of the time than the bits you ended up spending recording. And we watched a lot of snooker as well, didn't we?
Oh yes. I was very big
on
on snooker back then, and in between my breaks, snooker was on, World Championships, Mark Selby, good lad. Right, so that's kind of it really. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we have. Again, and as usual, if you've got any questions or you just want to ask questions or just say hi, please hit us up on our social media. So that's like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And just back to listening really. And we'll see you next time.
See you later.
Thanks. Stay clean.
Always like.